And speaking of the impending green initiative pressing down on us like a boot pressing down on our neck by authority, we now go to this piece, or these pieces from Darrin Mcbreen and Marcos Morales about the honest, hardworking chicken man who was just trying to do the right thing up there in Roswell, Georgia.
We are standing in front of what used to be the home of Andrew Werdes, who died tragically on March 26th of this year following an explosion that took place right here at his home. And this was as county marshals actually attempted to evict him from his property. Now, this property was seized by green zoning laws by the city of Roswell. They claim the land is future conservation area, and they call it green space. And for those of you who are having a hard time believing that, as I did, you can actually go see for yourself on the roswellgov.com's own website. They call it the City of Roswell's 2030 Comprehensive Plan. We're going to show you some of the devastation caused by the explosion and the fire that followed. You can actually still smell the burnt wood from the fire. This is truly a shocking and tragic story. You know, this man had his property seized and was terrorized to death by the city of Roswell, Georgia. I'm Darrin Mcbreen for Infowars Nightly News. We're actually going to go to the city council right now and see if we can get them to answer some very serious questions. This is Darrin Mcbreen signing out. Well, a funny thing happened to us in front of City Hall in Roswell, Georgia today. We showed up here moments ago to enter City Hall, see if we can interview some of the people in the city council, perhaps talk to the mayor, and we were immediately met by police officers who told us we were not allowed to enter City Hall. Also, they told us we weren't allowed to take any photographs and that we must have the proper credentials to photograph in the area. You know, we had a little scene that went on for a while. Marcos and I kind of schooled them on our basic rights and that we're allowed to photograph. But interesting, this family over here, moments later, showed up and began taking pictures right there in front of City Hall. So apparently, some people are allowed to, others, InfoWarriors, are not. I'm Darrin Mcbreen, Infowars.com.
Thank you, Darrin Mcbreen, for that report. And, of course, those guys will be back on Monday to file an extensive report on the Agenda 21 manipulation that is happening worldwide, but especially here in the United States as of late. Now, moving on to water restrictions could soon be permanent, another Agenda 21-esque story. We don't have enough water for those people. In less than 20 years, you talk about a deficit in Washington. We have a deficit right here in North Texas, and it's water. So they're saying water restrictions could soon be permanent in Dallas. All the rain that's fallen in recent weeks has a lot of people looking forward to an easing of watering restrictions, but city leaders in several DFW cities want to make them permanent. And there they go again, controlling our lives, our very water, our very drinking water, that lovely fluoride water. Moving on to an article that I wanted to point out to folks just to get educated from someone who's very experienced, number 2 there at the Department of Treasury under Reagan, Mr. Paul Craig Roberts, wrote a report called Washington Leads World into Lawlessness. And if you have any questions about the Obama administration or our intentions in Iran or the fact that we are leading the rest of the world down a slippery slope of complete criminal activity, well, he documents it all right here. For example, he says, Washington violates the human rights of its own citizens. Washington has suspended the civil liberties guaranteed in the U.S. Constitution and declared its intention to detain U.S. citizens indefinitely without due process of law. President Obama has announced that he, at his discretion, can murder U.S. citizens whom he regards as a threat to the U.S. And it's a very extensive read and a good report. I just wanted to point that out tonight on the news for folks who need to be educated, or if you want to just go back and look over what's been happening here recently with our republic. Now, moving on to a very interesting story. Since the booms that were taking place up in Wisconsin, we had hinted at the fact that we thought that there could be a possibility that these booms, the source of these booms, could be high-speed rail. Well, it was brought to our attention by the Intel Hub that the L.A. to New York in half an hour, 10,000-plus mile-per-hour tunnel train used for underground bases has been underway for a long time. It's been under the agenda of the Rand Corporation, who in 1972 in the L.A. Times, June 11, 1972 L.A. Times, said, a Rand Corporation physicist has devised a rapid transit system to get you from Los Angeles to New York in half an hour for a $50 fare. That's back when people were good and honest and weren't going to use things for their own means. I'm talking about the elitists. He said existing technology made such a system feasible, and so does a cost analysis. The essence of the idea is to dig a tunnel more or less along the present routes of U.S. highways 66 and 30. The tunnel would contain several large tubes for east-west travel of trains that float on magnetic fields, moving at top speeds of 10,000 miles per hour. Passengers would face forward during acceleration, backwards during deceleration. And all of that sounds very, very interesting and sounds great. It sounds like the kind of technology that we need and we need to strive towards. But looking at this nuclear tunnel boring machine that Switzerland, Switzerland has a lot of nuclear tunnel boring machines, but we have the best. And in this report, last Friday, the final breakthrough on the east tube of the Gotthard base tunnel occurred, and they used a TBM, a tunnel boring machine, to do that. And if you look here at the Rand Corporation's report on the actual route system that would be used as a result of these tunnel boring machines, it went from San Francisco. Well, this was when this report came out. This was years ago, but you can find it online. The Transplanetary Subway Systems of Burgeoning Capability by Robert M. Salter, February of 1978, courtesy of the Rand Corporation. The route went from San Francisco, as they said, along 30 and 66, all the way up to New York, up into New England. But what may have happened is, well, seems to have happened, is the Defense Department and the government and the secret, need I say, shadow government has taken over this transit system, and they use it for their own benefit. And moving on now to a daily quote, which will bring us right into our next guest, Joseph Plummer, who's written an excellent book called Dishonest Money, which you can find at Infowars.com in the store. This is from Woodrow Wilson. He says, I am a most unhappy man. I have unwittingly ruined my country. A great industrial nation is controlled by its system of credit. Our system of credit is concentrated. The growth of the nation, therefore, and all our activities are in the hands of a few men. Woodrow Wilson, after signing the Federal Reserve into existence. And now we take that thought to our next break and our interview with Joseph Plummer, author of Dishonest Money, right after this.